10th National Parliament officially open. Prime Minister flags key development priorities. And more homes lost to fresh fires at Hanuabada.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
A very good evening. Welcome to Tuesday's news. It was a show. We begin tonight's bulletin with the opening of the 10th National Parliament. It was a show of Papua New Guinea's democracy as members of the 10th Parliament were welcomed into the National Parliament House today for their first sitting. Following the Westminster rules, the Chief Justice and the Governor-General formally opened the new Parliament. In his address to the members, Governor-General Sir Bob Dadai called on the MPs to uphold personal integrity, a sense of duty, and conduct must be above reproach.
Sing Sing groups, the police band and military parade preceded the official opening ceremony at the Parliament grounds. After receiving the Speaker, Opposition Leader, Prime Minister, Chief Justice and the Governor-General at the steps of the Parliament House, a 22-gun salute and the national anthem officially began the formalities. The opening of a new parliament is a rare moment to witness different arms of a Commonwealth democracy, such as Papua New Guinea, come together in their regalia. In his address to the new parliament, the Governor-General stressed the importance of the rule of law.
To uphold the laws of our land as stipulated in the National Constitution, the rule of law and respect of systems, processes.
He also touched on the upcoming APAC.
The impact of a meeting of this magnitude and economic opportunity it will create for our country is huge.
And talked about the economy in terms of revenue generation activities.
Let's now expand our potential to raise revenue by shifting focus from non-renewable sector resources to the renewable sector, such as sustainable agriculture, fisheries, and tourism.
The protection of the environment.
We also have policies in place that allow us to sustainably harvest and exploit our natural resources, but in an environmentally friendly manner. This will allow us to enjoy the benefits now while preserving the environment for our children and their children to enjoy in years to come.
And economic reforms.
This include relevant amendments to legislation in sectors such as agriculture, fisheries, forestry and tourism, and through capacity building initiatives to enable more national and landowner participation. In saying this, I think it is time now for us to look at our laws that governs our mineral resource exploitation. Whether we should be spectators or whether we should be participants and major owners of our resources.
His closing remarks acknowledged the strength of the opposition, hinting at a more robust and equally high level of debate from both sides of the House.
In this term of Parliament, a good number of members of Parliament in the opposition bench. I am confident you will use your numbers to debate and support bills and policies for the good of our people and our nation.
Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill says the government is focused on implementing the key development pillars stipulated in the second Alotau Accord. O'Neill said this in his opening remarks this afternoon at the National Parliament.
Following the official opening of the 10th National Parliament in the morning, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill moved a motion to deliver his address when the House resumed for normal business at 2 p.m. Among his congratulatory remarks to both sides of the House, Mr. O'Neill assured the House the continuation of government's plan in implementing the agenda of the Second Alataw Accord.
We have further strengthened these policies, and this is going to be the agenda that we will bring to this Honourable House during the term of this Parliament.
Noting the increase in the number of leaders in the opposition team, Mr. O'Neill said the 10th Parliament will have constructive debates for a better PNG.
It is time to put our personal politics aside, Mr. Speaker. It's time to debate policy agenda, ideas that will advance the interest of all Papua New Guineans.
The country's chief executive maintained that health and education will remain key agenda despite struggles in implementing the two sectors in the past 5 years. Areas to be looked into include tourism, SME infrastructure, forest, land and trade.
We want to ensure that the traditional owners of our land can truly benefit from the resources that they and their communities have possessed for thousands of years. To this end, Mr. Speaker, we are committed to a comprehensive review again on the ownership rights of our resources in the country.
A concern for the O'Neill-Able-led government is now the unreliable population data at hand. Mr. O'Neill said this has also had implications in delivering accurate services and its maintenance throughout the country.
We need to re-establish the National Data Collection Center so that we can plan better and we can develop policies even better.
Parliament has been adjourned to 26 September 2017. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
Nipakutubu MP Jeffrey Komal is the Deputy Speaker of the 10th National Parliament. Komal polled 57 votes ahead of Maprik MP John Simon, who managed 47. He was nominated by Leader of Government Business James Marape. This will be Komal's second term in office. The appointment of the Deputy Speaker of Parliament was the second business conducted today. Parliament has been adjourned to September 26, 2017. With the 10th Parliament officially opened this morning, there was great concern at there being no women leaders in the House. A two-day forum held recently discussed strategies of how women could be supported and become leaders for representation in Parliament. Similar forums will be held around the country with the support of the United Nations Development Programme.
The two-day discussions involved participants from all sectors in both public and private organizations. Organized by UNDP, the obvious concern was the zero representation of women's voice in the 10th Parliament.
We're very concerned about this, so to do this we thought we will conduct a two-day meeting to find out as a reflection exercise. And what we hope that will come out by this afternoon is an outcome document which can be shared for various advocacy forums and other partners who would like to take this issue further.
With no female voices after this year's election, PNG is now below the global average of 23% female representation in Parliament. The forum discussed strategies of an alternate strategic roadmap where more women can be elected in the next national elections in 2022.
There are people out there, especially males, who go out of their way to actually preserve that status quo to keep women at that level. And I think what needs to happen is that they need to change. They need to change that mentality. We need more men to come out as champions.
The forum highlighted 8 recommendations with the 4 leading agendas of government and parliament to address deficit of women in parliament, more support from integrity of political parties and candidate commission, and independent review of 2017 national elections to identify areas of improvement so women participate freely in election processes, and call to government to strengthen national mechanisms dedicated to promote women empowerment and gender equality.
Come together and be really united in our goal to increase women's participation in Parliament in 2022. I mean, we're all devastated that we don't have a voice this time for the first time in our history. So it's been wonderful to hear people's views and very practical advice on what we can do going forward.
UNDP is planning for similar forums in other regions around the country.
This two-day reflection will also prompt more thinking and discussions and strategies on what to do. And we're also looking at conducting regional meetings, if possible, after this conference, but it will come through an outcome document and request also from other concerned stakeholders. Thank you.
Only 3 women were elected in the previous national elections, but all 3 failed to defend the seats. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Community leaders in Southern Highlands province have petitioned the Electoral Commission over the delay in completing counting for the regional seat. The leaders say despite the declaration of the 4 open seats, the regional seat remains vacant with no voice on the floor of Parliament. They say discrepancies must be sorted out and the elimination stages in counting must commence.
The 5 community leaders who are from different areas in Southern Highlands compiled a 3-page open petition for Electoral Commissioner Patilis Gamato to address the delays for the Southern Highlands regional seat. They say election manager David Wakiest must be held responsible and Mr. Gamato must take action.
Miblay come talk na talk seven na talk clear of poverty masaret cause plong workman plong Electoral Commissioner. Ogar this la problem may come up cause man who said the cost is the problem and workman belong you Electoral Commissioner.
The total ballot boxes for the Southern Highlands regional seat is 648. 462 have been counted in the past 6 weeks. Out of the 102 yet to be counted, 84 were locked away by Mr. Wakias. The community leaders believe these boxes must be counted.
Or the mass counting, all votes now declaring winner. Fair election by no heart.
They are also concerned about election-related deaths in Mendi town and damage to properties. They believe the deliberate actions of the election manager have stirred the violence and police must investigate.
David Wagies, he must be arrested to do something else. Patilis Gamato by Nablo, all staff, including those 102 boxes where MEN pigging men on the street. Francis Akul.
The Southern Highlands regional seat is the only seat yet to be declared after the Simbu regional, Kandap Open and Eastern Highlands were declared. The community leaders say the Electoral Commission must do its part in making sure a leader is chosen for the good of the province.
Governor of Southern Highlands in his in 10 national parliament now. Also, Namibla like him. Now, counting them staff finish lo haken so. Almost continuous like 80 people box. Now almost declare him winner. Who should win? Governor of Southern Highlands.
11 community leaders signed the petition and submitted it to the office of the Electoral Commission today. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Here with National EMTV News, among stories after the break, more homes lost in Hanuabada. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The father of Rose Kimberley, the 7-year-old New Ireland girl who was raped and killed 2 weeks ago, has called on the Prime Minister to implement the death penalty. Stephen Gilnig says he will be satisfied if the man who raped and killed his daughter are put to death. Rose Kimberley was raped and killed during a visit to her biological mother. The rapists broke her front teeth and cut her genitals. Residents later found her body in the settlement where her family lived. Leh Metropolitan Commander Chief Superintendent Anthony Wagambi Jr. has warned students in Leh to refrain from participating in school fights. This follows a fight between the Leh Secondary School and students from Bugandi last week. Wagambi warned that police will not hesitate to conduct mass arrests if students continue to engage in school fights. He said it is only a minority who instigates such activities and is calling on all stakeholders to take ownership and work together in finding a solution to this problem. Anthony Wagambi, Chief Superintendent, Leh Metropolitan Command.
We'll go to Bugandi, go to Leh Secondary and investigate the cause of this problem. What actually happened? What was the cause of this problem? So we will look at that first. Secondly, we must get everybody responsible people parents, guardians, teachers, both administrations of both schools, ex-students, prominent people in the community, we've all got to take ownership of this problem. We've all got to get together and we've got to find a solution to this.
Policing will now be more accessible to the public in both rural and urban areas of Morobe Province with the Lay Police Emergency Line. Mobile phone users have begun receiving messages today alerting them on the Lay Police Emergency number. The emergency line has been effective since being introduced in Lay. Julie Badui-Owa reports from Lay.
The awareness of the toll-free emergency number continues as mobile phone users received messages alerting them on Lay Police Emergency Line. The number will now be accessible by all mobile phone users in both the urban and rural areas of Morobe.
Want people in rural areas to also have the access to that number. They can report to us like natural disasters or boat accidents, things like that. If it's a medical evacuation, they can get in touch with police.
Wagambi says the emergency line has been effective since being introduced in June this year. Mobile callers who decide to misuse the number will be identified and have their mobile numbers cancelled. The Lay Police Communication Department is organized with full-time staff to attend to emergency calls from the public.
If it's a Sunday going to Monday morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's an incident, somebody calls in, we always have people responding. They're always responding to incidents.
The toll-free emergency number 7090-3300 is free to use by the public.
The call to the Morobe leaders already, but to all elected members of parliament whose provinces are linked by road to Lay, we need to really look at development in our districts.
Julie Badui-Owa, National EMTV News, Lay.
To East New Britain Province, a series of armed robberies involving large sums of money have hit various parts of the province in the last 14 days. The robbery spree has worried business houses in the province. Chamber of Commerce President David Stein says they will be taking new approaches to help police curb the problem. Edwin Fidelis reports from Kokopo.
Like any other developing provinces, East New Britain is slowly beginning to get its share of problems. A series of armed robberies has sent messages of precaution to business houses in this once peaceful province. About 4 robberies involving large sum of money have been reported to police. All happened within a span of just 2 weeks.
I'm expecting that
East New Britain's Chamber of Commerce President David Stein says serious crimes like armed robberies are inevitable and East New Britain has to be prepared for it, especially in a time when the province is seeing an unprecedented economic growth.
The police are doing a good job with what resources they have, but yeah, it's essential that we in the private sector work together with the police and do what we can to try and get over this current situation.
Mr. Stein says the Chamber of Commerce will be pitching to the police new approaches to curb the problem. One such is the use of social media platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook groups, an approach similar to what is being used by the Lay Police to engage community participation to tip off police when there is any hint of trouble in their areas.
Everyone's got everyone else's phone numbers. They're on WhatsApp so that if there is a break-in or suspicious activity, it's easy to report that to other people in the area so that people can get assistance quickly.
Attempts to get a response from the East New Britain police boss were unsuccessful, but it is understood the police have since been put on high alert. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
Back to the National Capital District, and while donations have been flooding in for the fire victims and homeless families of Hanuabada, several more families lost their homes this morning after 3 more houses were razed by fire. According to eyewitnesses, the fire started at around 6:30 a.m. this morning. Our early morning news crew covered the story.
Three days after the fire incident in Hanuabada, which destroyed 15 houses, this morning the Hanuabada villagers woke up to news of another 3 houses razed. Firefighters rushed to the scene to contain the fire. However, it was impossible because of the location of the houses. Locals stood helplessly watching as the houses were razed by flames. Others held out pouring seawater to at least contain the fire from spreading to the rest of the neighborhood. Eyewitnesses told MTV News the fire started around 6:30 this morning. It caught them by surprise.
Actually, I was outside because I was having our breakfast. And all of a sudden, I had windows breaking and falling down. I thought my son came in and started to change, and the windows were falling down. So when I thought he was doing that, so I mentioned his name. And all of a sudden, people were screaming over the roof. They say, "Fire, fire, fire!" We couldn't help it, but we just have to run and assist, help.
Meanwhile, the cause of fire is yet to be established. Fabian Haklitz, National MTV News.
Meanwhile, the National Capital District Commission will be setting up call booths tomorrow at the engineering depot at Thorpe to coordinate and monitor relief supplies for victims of the Hanuabada fires.
NCD Community and Social Service Manager Kiledik has called on government agencies, business houses and residents in Port Moresby for assistance. This comes after 200 people have been displaced after losing their homes to the fire over the weekend. 15 houses were completely burnt down, with others partially damaged.
So we'd like to make this call to all our friends in the city, as well as all our friends in various NGOs, faith-based organizations, to come on board, and more importantly, the companies and the service providers that we've supported over the years. By tomorrow, we should be able to have the telephone organized through Telecom. We should be able to advise everyone the numbers to call, so that your support will go a long way in terms of supporting these victims. So our call is in kind, whether it's hardware materials, clothes, foodstuff.
The tragic incident has received positive feedbacks and quick intervention from individuals, corporate business houses and the private to public sector. NCDC will also assist in building temporary pathways, with Governor Powers Pakop, who has donated 75,000 kina to the Hanuabada appeal.
Governor has alluded to that yesterday, to build good and strong permanent walkways for long-term arrangements.
Marilyn Diaukatam, National MTV News.
Oil and gas company Oil Search today released its half-year results. Despite a slight drop in production in comparison to the same period in 2016, an increase in world oil prices coupled with low operating costs in the first half of 2017. These ensured a profit of $129.1 million, just under 400 million kina. Oil Search today released their half-year results for 2017 to the markets, with the oil and gas company recording overall positive results. Despite a slight drop in production compared to the corresponding period in 2016, low unit production costs per barrel and increased world oil prices helped to achieve sound financial performance in the first half of this year. All this translating to a whopping $129.1 million in net profit after tax, close to 400 million kina, more than 5 times more than the same period in 2016. Speaking to MTV News this afternoon, Oil Search Managing Director Peter Botten was pleased with the outcome so far for the company.
That was built on a very solid production base out of our oil fields, and especially PNG LNG, and also a drop in our overall costs by 12% in terms of taking costs out and driving efficiencies in our business. When you add all that up, we had a very strong first half, as I say, a strong first half profit, impacted too by higher oil and gas pricing. So overall, a pretty strong result.
Not wanting to rest on their laurels, Oil Search looks to better its financial performance for the full year. For this to be realized, the company is looking to build on the performance set in the first half of this year.
Well, obviously, I think the most important thing, frankly, is to keep your production up and make sure your production is as high as possible on a reasonable basis. And obviously, with higher production, you get a certain amount of your cost base is fixed price. So if you're putting more barrels through, more molecules through, you'll reduce your cost. And that's really what happened here. I mean, clearly a 28% increase in oil price, 26% increase in in gas price had a material impact as well. But it really is a combination between high production rates, low costs and higher oil prices, and that's what led to a significant profit outcome for the first half.
With the recent conclusion of the national general elections, Oil Search also used the opportunity to engage with the new government to see how best they can work together in a range of areas, particularly in regards to issues surrounding PNG LNG project benefit distribution, as well as LNG expansion plans, issues which the government under Peter O'Neill are also keen to address.
But I stress that's got to be done by engaging with the government, engaging with landowners and the community in general to demonstrate the value that has come from PNG LNG to date. And I think it's very important that the project developers explain to government, explain to landowners that these projects do bring significant value, and the value that has already been delivered by PNG LNG.
As a participant in the country's next LNG project, Papua LNG, Oil Search is also keen to engage with the developer, Total, in laying the foundations for this project, a project which is an integral part of Oil Search's growth into the future.
I'm sure that as part of the government's 100-day plan, a priority to resolve a range of development issues is part of that plan, or likely to be part of that plan. And clearly our discussions between the two projects and the various operators, ExxonMobil and Total, I think are very constructive.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3145 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.307, $0.327 Australian dollars, €0.2563 euro and 33.14 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, cocoa and copper closed higher, gold and coffee closed the day lower. Palm oil and crude oil closed higher, while copper closed the day lower. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed 29 points higher, the ASX closed 23 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed 23 points higher as well. Here with National EMTV News, we'll have stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, another Melbourne council has decided to dump Australia Day celebrations. The city of Darwin voted to acknowledge January 26 as the beginning of British invasion and will scrap citizenship ceremonies on that day.
A second Melbourne council has dumped Australia Day celebrations as it's deemed to be offensive to many in the Aboriginal community. Last night, Darebin Council voted in the change with a 6-2 vote in an emotional town meeting. It comes just days after Yarra Council scrapped its Australia Day celebration. What it means is the council will not hold citizenship ceremonies on the 26th of January and that the day will no longer be referred to as Australia Day, a move that has been heavily criticised by the State Premier and Prime Minister as dividing the country.
We believe that January 26 marks the invasion of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and the beginning of systematic extermination of those cultures.
There has been some talk that the council brought in the change without proper consultation after they surveyed just 81 people in their area. It's a big left-wing council with 4 Greens, 3 Independent and 2 Labor-backed councillors.
The vast majority of the people in our municipality now have shown that they actually want to discuss this issue.
And it seems that this could be just the beginning, with councils around the nation, including Hobart and Fremantle Council, also interested in following suit.
For the first time in nearly a century, a total eclipse was swept across America, with more than 12 million people watching as the moon passed in front of the sun. It began on the west coast above Oregon, crossed 13 states, ending on the east coast in South Carolina. Meanwhile, the United States President Donald Trump has been accused of ignoring the warnings of scientists by looking at the sun during the eclipse.
It was wicked cool. It just all of a sudden got really dark, and then you could see the corona, and it was really beautiful. It was really nice. Something you'd never experience again.
The sun kept getting smaller and smaller,
And then once the eclipse was over, it kept getting bigger and bigger.
The kids asked us if they needed to go to bed early. That's how dark it was.
It's like magical.
For those not lucky enough to see it with their own eyes, the event was live streamed on Facebook by NASA. Images were captured by 11 spacecraft, more than 50 high-altitude balloons, and even the International Space Station.
It looked like a ring of fire in the sky. Just a giant black circle followed by... It looked like a white ring of fire.
Donald Trump's been accused of ignoring the warnings of scientists by looking at the sun during the eclipse. Here's a picture of the first family watching on at the White House.
Spanish police say they've shut down the terror group responsible for the van attack that killed at least 13 people in Barcelona. It comes after the suspected driver was shot dead by the police after a 4-day manhunt. But investigations into the attack are ongoing.
The hunt for a young man who murdered so many ended here. A normally tranquil part of Catalonian countryside this afternoon swarmed with armed police. In the sky, officers checking for accomplices. But hunted for days, Yunus Abu Yaqub died out here on his own.
Just before 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the Catalan police has shot dead Yunus Abu Yaqub, driver of the van and direct perpetrator of the attack in Barcelona on Thursday, causing the death of 14 people.
Locals say Abu Yaqub was spotted by a woman this morning who tipped off police. He apparently then ran off into a field. In the space of nearly 4 days, Yunus Abu Yaqub had travelled right out into the countryside here, tens of kilometres away from Barcelona. When confronted by police, he revealed he was wearing what appeared to be a suicide belt. One report says he shouted, Allah Akbar, God is great in Arabic, before officers shot him dead. Earlier today, the manhunt moved up a gear. CCTV released of Abu Yaqub's movements after he drove a van indiscriminately down Las Ramblas. New images of a man motivated to kill as many as he could. We think this video, filmed by a local woman, shows the car he stole after Las Ramblas attack. The owner was stabbed to death.
They got out of their cars with all the guns, all the secretas, lots of police suddenly right in seconds.
The police believe that Yunus Abu Yaqub was part of a larger network, which they have now dismantled. His murderous mission ended here. Born in Morocco, at 22, he became a killer in Spain.
The United States Navy has ordered a worldwide operational pause of its fleet after a destroyer collided with an oil tanker in Singapore, leaving 10 sailors missing. It's the second incident involving one of the warships in recent months.
The crippled USS McCain is in port at a naval base in Singapore while searchers work to find those 10 missing sailors, and the Navy scrambles to find the cause of this latest accident. The gaping hole in the ship's hull giving only a hint of the horror that took place inside.
It's an intolerable and inexcusable tragedy.
It was before dawn when the destroyer, one of the most sophisticated ships in the Navy, collided with the oil tanker in a busy shipping lane in the South China Sea. The bulbous nose of the tanker piercing the destroyer's left side, which would be near berthing areas for the crew. In addition to those missing, 5 sailors were injured, 4 medevac to a hospital in Singapore. It is the 4th Navy mishap this year, the second major collision for the 7th Fleet in 2 months. 7 sailors died in June when the USS Fitzgerald collided with a container ship off the coast of Japan.
What have we missed? Has something changed in the environment? Are radars so good? Are we relying only on radars and not basic seamanship?
The senior officers on the Fitzgerald have been relieved of duty, and today the Navy announced all operations will be halted for the next several days for the entire fleet.
This trend demands more forceful action. As such, I've directed an operational pause be taken in all of our fleets around the world.
You're with National EMTV News. True Guys Sports is next. We'll be back with the details after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Rugby League World Cup 2017 CEO Andrew Hill has urged people in Papua New Guinea to grab a World Cup ticket as soon as possible. Tickets will go on general sale at 10 a.m. this Thursday, the 24th of August, via the tournament's official website, rlwc2017.com, or from one of 8 Ticketmaster's outlets in Port Moresby.
The one key message as I leave the stage, please tell people don't wait. If you wait, you'll be disappointed. There is only 3 matches played here. The ground is at 15,000 capacity. I'm sure we will sell 45,000 tickets very quickly. So if anyone wants to come to watch the Rugby League World Cup men's tournament here in POM, don't wait.
The Rugby League World Cup is the pinnacle event in 2017 in Australia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea. But as an organising committee, we're committed to creating a ticket for everyone. To that end, I'm pleased to announce that individual tickets for the 3 games in 2017 to be played out of Oil Search National Football Stadium will start from 30 kina. 30 kina seats will be found in the northern and southern grandstands of the Oil Search National Football Stadium. The eastern grandstand will be 50 kina. 80 kina seats will be found in the western wings of the western grandstand, and 120 kina was the highest price for seats in the covered grandstands. Tickets will go on sale at 10 a.m, Thursday the 24th of August 2017. Tickets will be available through the official website of Rugby League World Cup, which is rlwc2017.com, and available through 8 Ticketmaster outlets here in Port Moresby. 3 Brian Bell outlets, 2 Stop and Shops, 2 Big Roosters, and cool stuff down at Waterfront Harbour City. The National Football Stadium box office will also be selling tickets through this period.
The SPPNG Hunters will play their final match of the Intrust Super Cup regular season against last-placed Tweedhead Seagulls. Hunters coach Michael Marum said they will treat their last game of the season no different from their previous matches. Marum admitted he was impressed with his side's performance throughout the season and is humbled by the minor premiership title win in their 4th year in the competition. However, there are areas the team needs to work on, and Marum intends to leave no loose ends heading into the final series. The home and away game is on Sunday at 2 p.m. at the Pigabeen Stadium in Brisbane. Australia has named its Olympic ambassador for the Tokyo 2020 Games. The announcement was made in Tokyo yesterday.
Ian Thorpe was back by the pool today, not in it and not in Australia, but although he no longer races for the country, he certainly represents it. And now he does that as an Australian ambassador to the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. He retired 10 years ago, but is still very recognisable and popular here in Japan, where he has a huge following, and Tokyo organisers are hoping to use that to their advantage. Thorpe won 9 Olympic medals. He brings a whole lot of experience to the table.
I think we got a glimpse of what the Tokyo Olympics are going to be like, what we saw at the Rio at the closing ceremony. This is going to be a great opportunity for Japan to showcase what they're doing for contemporary Japan.
He met in Tokyo with the New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, who is here on her first overseas trip since she's taken the job of Premier. The Torpedo said to her he'd actually been in Japan alone 20 times. Back to you.
And to an update on the 2019 Pacific Games, it is now likely that Samoa will be hosting the Games. This follows a visit by the Games Council President Vidya Lakan and Chief Executive Officer Andrew Minogues to Samoa for evaluation. President Lakan said Samoa is one of the 3 countries that have expressed interest to host after Tonga's withdrawal, and they have the infrastructure. An official announcement will be made in September. For now, Samoa is looking at refurbishing their available infrastructure for the Games. Trukai Sports continues after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To the NRL, the Gold Coast Titans have sacked head coach Neil Henry after a highly publicised argument with star fullback Jared Hayne. Hayne has been furious after the club's embarrassing matches losses over the past few weeks. Hayne threatened to quit the club if Henry didn't want him there, further fueling a battle that was always going to have at least a loser. Titans CEO Graham Mansley says Haynes' publicised feud with Henry was the catalyst for Henry's termination, which also highlighted other issues that had already become a problem. The Titans have named Terry Matheson and Craig Hodges as Henry's replacements for the remainder of the season. Still in the NRL players attended last night's Rugby League Players Association meeting. They emerged with concern over revenue share, player welfare and insurance, and didn't rule out industrial actions.
There's things we've got that we can use as leverage if the NRL didn't want to come to the party.
Players also objected to the NRL's push for access to bank accounts and phone records. To boxing now, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor are gearing up for one of the most anticipated and controversial fights of the year in Las Vegas this Saturday. Boxing living legend Floyd Mayweather struck a reflective tone on Thursday as he discussed the risk of coming out of retirement for a massive payday.
With his super fight against UFC mixed martial artist Conor McGregor just days away, Mayweather has not fought in 2 years, needs a win to surpass another boxing great Rocky Marciano's record and reach 50-0 for his career.
Right here is a Submariner. 10 watches are made around the world like this. Only 10 watches in the world like this watch.
The fight, which the two combatants promoted with a 4-city international media tour stretching across 3 countries, has gathered plenty of interest despite skepticism about how competitive it will be. Mayweather, master defensive technician and tactician, is heavily favored to win the August 26 fight in Las Vegas, but the 40-year-old has said that on paper, everything leans towards the 29-year-old Irishman, who is taller and has a longer reach.
The word doesn't even come in. The word isn't even in my vocabulary. I am here to win. I am preparing to win, and win in devastating fashion. That's where we're at. I don't care about the money. I don't care about any of that.
McGregor has made it clear he believes the lighter gloves used in the bout means his opponent will struggle to make it past the second round. The Nevada State Athletic Commission on Wednesday approved a request from Mayweather and McGregor to wear 8-ounce gloves rather than 10-ounce ones. The Irishman said his grueling preparations for the fight would enable him to triumph no matter how the fight develops. Dana White, president of Ultimate Fighting Championship, followed McGregor on the conference call and predicted the fight could even threaten the reported $600 million haul from the Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao 2015 showdown. Shane Soroya, National EMTV Sports.
The football and the Oceania Futsal Confederation Youth Futsal Tournament is set for the month of October in Auckland, New Zealand. 12 under-18 teams from across Oceania will gather to take part in the men's and women's tournaments. The winners in each division qualify directly for the Buenos Aires 2018 Youth Olympic Games, where futsal will make its debut. Meanwhile, Papua New Guinea could not register a team in this year's futsal competition. The tournament runs from the 4th to the 7th of October. And that's it for Trukai Sports. Up next, your weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, Alotau and Popondetta, mostly fine. To the Momase region, mostly fine in Ley and Wau, fine becoming cloudy for Medang and Wewak as well as in Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorangau, some showers expected in Kavieng, Kokopo and Rabaul, a few showers for Kimbe and thundery showers for Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centers can expect fine weather with morning fog.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And before we go, a quick look at our top stories tonight. The 10th National Parliament officially opens. Prime Minister flags key development priorities, and more homes lost to fresh fires at Hanuabada. And that's the news, sports and weather for today, Tuesday the 22nd of August 2017. From the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.